order the meeting of Tuesday, November 14th, 2023, special school district business meeting. Everyone stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call.
Here. Here.
Here. Here. Vice President Byers here. President Petro here. First on our agenda, we have recognition of Patty. I'm so sorry, I'm just reading your last name. Sarah and Carrie Lorman. So, Jim Raymond, take it away.
Meeting Board, President Petrov, Board of Education, Dr. Macklin. Tonight I'd like to recognize our sign language interpreters, Ms. Patty Kuderna and Curry Lorman. They are present at each board meeting providing sign language interpretation to ensure our meetings are accessible to our whole community. We are grateful to not only Patty and Curry, but also all the interpreters who make a difference by enabling meaningful understanding between individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing or those who do not know sign language. I'd like to invite Patty and Curry to join us at the front for your recognition and for a photo. And join me in celebrating them with a sign language clapping.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
How quick we.
Towards his.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments. We have a couple that were emailed in before Amy reads them. I will read this. Welcome to the Special School District of St. Louis County Board of Education Business Meeting. 30 minutes of each Board of Education business meeting will be set aside as your public comment. Board of Education values your input and thank you for your comments. Each comment is limited to 3 minutes to address any item that is a legitimate part of the school community. No confidential or personal related topics are allowed. Comments will be read in the order that they were received by mail. Comments will be emailed and sent understanding address will have been submitted to the Secretary of the Board and will become part of the official public record. Is there a Paul Kaufman here?
Yes.
Paul, would you like to come up and read your statement?
Please, thank you. Good evening, distinguished members of the board. I am speaking as an individual. I wanted to make the public comment regarding two matters. The first is the release of information regarding our superintendent and the audit report that you're receiving this evening. 2 years ago, there was a conscious effort to rebrand Special School District. This was done through looking at the logo, the mission statement, and the design, and all that is necessary because it's coming to mind to build confidence and trust in the consumers who use the services for their children. And it's also, I think, very effective when you're trying to create a new image. It was very shocking, however, to receive the email update in late October regarding Dr. Keenan. It was even more shocking when my wife and I received it in separate personal email accounts because our daughter received SNAP services through Special School District. Information that released mirrored what was sent to staff members. And to see the Post-Dispatch release the next morning. In the next 48 hours, I have people in my community friends and family members who came up and asked what was going on. It was evident from this action that the way that the information was distributed, I really believe probably hurt the trust brand that we are trying to build together with staff, our leadership team, and also our board here. My message to them, which mirrored what was given to us by SSD's Department of Communications, was that there was a process underway. That's all that I could say. I understand the need to get ahead of a story, but based on the action I received and the questions I've been asked, I can't help but feel that how this information was released has hurt us as a district and hurt the brand that we were trying to build. Lastly, I wanted to bring your attention to the audit report that you're going to be receiving this evening. For the last 3 years, there has been a push for zero-based budgeting analysis, the goal of which is to project the expenses and revenue streams of a district accurately in order to use taxpayer dollars very effectively into its proper end. If it's successful, and even though it's not an exact science, there should not be large discrepancies between projected costs and actual costs and revenue streams themselves. The audit report that you received this evening says the following reflection. According to board docs from May 24th, 2022, the budget for 22-23 school year projected revenues of $489 million. The projected expense count was $509 million. Per the audit report we received this evening, revenues were actually $547 million. The expenses at $517. This led to a net gain of $29 million. This is on top of the $20 million based on zero-based budgeting principles that came from the previous year. That is $49 million net position over the last 2 years. According to the Consumer Price Index for the month of September, cost of living expenses minus food and energy are up 4% over the last year. Food prices alone are up 3%. I would ask, when you're considering that the fund balance, according to the report, currently sits at $371 million, which is 73%, which in some cases is triple the amount of what our partner districts have in their reserve fund balance, that you use the resources necessary to meet one of the goals and marks of excellence in workplace, which is to recruit and retain the best employees that you can. Thank you for your time.
Next public comment this evening is from Marjorie Dawes. She says, as a retired employee of the special school district, I am appalled by the poor handling of leave of the district's chief executive. I have witnessed how investigations were conducted for colleagues during my time with the district, which was usually handled with some consideration of the impact on staff, students, and families. However, professional protocols were not followed this time. Despite the presence of a communications department, a family and community department, and an office for employee success and engagement, it appears the goal was to reprimand the second woman to be the district superintendent publicly. As a taxpayer in St. Louis County, I want to know what all of these administrators' salaries are paying for, if not strategic communication with community stakeholders. As an education advocate, I was confronted numerous times at public meetings with questions about SSD's abrupt change in leadership. Although employees may have been admonished not to gossip, media optics only added to the anxiety of employees and families already coping with staffing shortages and unwarranted attacks on the profession. It's time for the district to take responsibility for its actions, demonstrate that the values of equity, commitment, and collaboration are not just words on the website, but guiding principles for its governance. Next on our agenda, 4.01 is the approval. Do I have a motion? Or a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Here comes the superintendent report, 5.01 is the audit update.
Good evening, President Petrov, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. I am going to turn it over to Andrew Zettel, who is our auditor and conducted the audit for us this year.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Zettel. I'm a principal with Clifton Larson Allen.
I spend all my time working with state and local governments and school districts, so I'm very familiar with the operations of SSD and school districts similar to yours. Before I dig into the materials, I just want to say to Deidre and her team, thanks for all the hard work. It's been a tough push over the last, 6 weeks, but we're in a good position. So I'm going to walk you through the materials. This is a summation of basically all of our work over the past 4 months. I'm going to skip to our audit and approach and the risk side. This kind of walks through how we go about scoping our audit. We focus on areas of significant fraud risk. We understand the inherent risks associated with certain counts in transactions, specifically around the estimates. For example, pension, OPEB, and other insurance reserves. We consider the school district's control risks as well as the risks for not detecting misstatements as a result of our audit procedures. Considering all those items, we really go through and do a risk-based audit. It helps us identify areas of specific risk, but still making sure that we're getting the appropriate level of coverage. So the executive committee, the scope of services that we are engaged to perform, doing an audit of SSD's financial statements, doing an examination that's required by the state of Missouri. We're doing an independent audit report over the financial statements required by governmental auditing standards. We're performing an audit to make sure that we're compliant with OMB rules regarding federal spending, as well as agreed upon procedures for Missouri One Star. We did test 3 major programs. That was Title I, ESSER, and Special Education. The aggregate amount of those expenditures during the year was approximately 96% of the school district's total federal money that was spent through the year. So the results of our procedures, overall unmodified opinion. So that's the cleanest possible opinion you can get on all of your reports. There were findings. There were 2 findings. One of them is related to our report on internal controls over financial reporting. This was discussed with the audit committee when I met with them a week ago. A significant deficiency, so there's 2 levels of findings. There's a material weakness and a significant deficiency. A significant deficiency is the least of the report findings. So the first one here is related to E-rate funds, okay? There was a liability that was recorded on SSD's financial statements from about 2013 through 2020. That aggregated to about $1.8 million. When Deidre stepped into her position, she reviewed and analyzed the account and started asking questions. Ultimately, this should have been booked as revenue in prior periods, okay? So it was an out-of-period adjustment for revenue that was recognized in the current year that shouldn't have been. This was not material for us to go and change the prior period numbers, all right? So that's why it's limited to a significant deficiency versus material weakness. However, the dollars of it are fairly large, and that's why we felt that was important to communicate to the audience. Next item here is honestly an ancillary comment, but the feds require you to have suspension debarment analysis performed. That's going to a SAM.gov site and making sure any vendors are not suspended or debarred if they're using federal money for that. So, for example, you're not allowed to work with certain organizations or any organizations, especially in foreign countries, for example, in Russia and Iran. They're trying to prevent federal money flowing to those types of organizations. Clearly, SSD didn't spend the money on that. It's still something they're required to do. And now, as far as timing is concerned, we are wrapped up and we have completed our audit procedures. We will issue a report to Deidre and her team this week. I'll go over some high-level required communications, overall great cooperation, and great involvement in the management team. No significant difficulties encountered. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. There was no misstatements or errors that we identified that were required to have correction to these financial statements. We identified items that were not material and that we left uncorrected. So, for example, the first one is E-rate. That's $1.8 million worth of revenue that was recognized in this year that should have been recognized in prior periods. The second one on here, we were able to resolve this Friday after I sent you the audit committee materials. So this is no longer an uncorrected mistake. Okay. This last one here, in the capital asset detail listings, there were additions that didn't reconcile to the roll forward activity. Ultimately, the ending balance is tied out, but we were unable to tie out the current period activity. Ultimately, it related to
the prior individual that was in charge of this not stating that the work that was done in prior periods. So there was a little bit of difficulty tying out the opening capital asset balances. This item was only $447,000. It's not material. It's a non-cash related item. We didn't feel like that aggravated or caused a separate finding that we're required to include in our audit. No fraud or illegal acts. There was an adoption of the new accounting standard related to IP subscriptions. That increased your assets by about $5.3 million. Non-compliance with laws and regulations, there were none. And then significant deficiencies, we've talked through those. That concludes our audit committee materials. Within here is an appendix, which is a separate document. The appendix is our report on diversity, equity, inclusion. Clifton Marshtown is very focused on trying to create a diverse workplace. I don't have the slides in front of me, but on page 7 of the diversity and equity inclusion report, you'll see statistics that shows about a 73% increase in diverse hires from 2020 through 2022. In addition to that, it's drafted a financial statement for the fiscal year in 2023. I open up to any comments you guys have.
Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is 5.02, progress update on the 5-year equity plan.
Good evening, President Bottroff, Board Directors, Dr. Macklin. My name is Gerald Diggs, and I'm before you today to give an update of the 5-year equity plan. And in this plan, we'll go very deep into work on this year. Also, we'll have time yielded to Dr. Chambers to talk about the operations portion of the equity framework, as well as her work throughout the district. Having said that, the purpose of this evening's presentation is to do multiple things. One is to provide an update to the school board, but also what within the equity framework are progress on. And I would like to accentuate those pieces this evening. And so having said that, at this moment, we are achieving 82% of collective actions that are either completed, in action, or ongoing processes throughout our equity framework that was adopted several years ago. 82%, I believe we're making our way, but we do have a ways to go. I'm excited about that work. Having said that, this is just a high-level view of some of the work that I'm currently working and pursuing throughout the district. One of those is being just continuing to accentuate the professional learning and the plan that happens across our district, as well as within SSD. Also, as you can see up front on the slides, one of my goals this year is to achieve 95% of deep learning when it comes to professional learning and those sessions that we have together. Right now, we're averaging about 92. And then also, with that being said, supporting all of our actions together involves communication, but then also leaning in deeper into perspective. Also, as you can see in the image up front, this is from our second year of the equity cafeteria, who's making opportunity. We were able to bring in a keynote speaker, Dr. Katie Swalwell, from our northern states, and she did an amazing job just connecting with what is mitigative work and then also what's transformative. Also, at this moment, the Bridges staff and I, through the equity framework, we are pursuing a trauma-informed care certificate together. So I would like to say thank you for all of you for allowing us to make that happen as a program. Now, with that being said, this is just a high-level view of what's happening at each of our SSD schools as it relates to their equity teams. This Friday, you will see a detailed report on their measures, on how they're going to measure their work, and also the components that drive their work together. So having said that, North Tech, they're diving into cognitive bias and microaggressions. South Tech, I was there this morning. They're working through some department courses. And then furthermore, Northview and Southview, they're doing some deep work as well. Southview, I was also there this morning. They're working on a book study by none other than Jerry Chapman. He did a little bit of work on 5 love languages. Now, we're not working on that, but we did write a separate publication about workplace appreciation, and we're halfway through that work. Also, with the remainder of our schools, Ackerman listing a new owner, they're doing some deep dives, another book study at new owner, as well as Bridges, which I mentioned earlier, and then the JEC, they're doing some workplace work in regards to our professional learning apparatus. Now, with that being said, this year is year 4 of the equity framework, which dives very deep into bias. What does that look like? How do we combat bias? But also, how do we work with one another as we're addressing these big pieces? I do believe year 3 was foundational for these conversations. But this year, we have been really phenomenal when it comes to just leaning deeper into the work. Now, having said that, this is a really high-level view of the courses that we offer through our department. Not only are we offering these, but we do create other content to be able to reach and teach at the level that we need. More yield back some time to Dr. Chambers as she comes with operations.
Good evening, President Potshoff, Board Directors, and Dr. Macklin. As the newest member of the DEIA department, I am pleased to share with you tonight my goals for the year and the department's commitment to advancing the district's value of equity through our collective work together. So to start, in my role as the Director of Equity for Operations, this year I'm focused on 3 areas of impact on the operational practices of the district. The first area outlined is the design and facilitation of an equitable operational practice to review our department structures and ensure equity of job alignment, promotion and compensation opportunities, and the opportunities for employee engagement. I will share more with you regarding the development of this E3 process in a future presentation right after this. The second goal that I'm working on this year is around examining our district's processes and procedures of contracting services with the goal of increasing our partnerships with minority and women-owned businesses and service-disabled veteran enterprises. And then lastly, the third goal this year is around focusing on district-wide climate of employee sense of belonging and engagement through facilitation of professional learning experiences, specifically focused on our operational practices across the district. So goal 1, in this slide you can see where I've outlined the action steps involved in establishing and facilitating an E3 team. The process involves a comprehensive analysis of our organizational structures and positional alignment throughout the organization, as well as identifying areas to elevate our employee experiences. Leadership professional development is embedded within this process. And as I said, I'll share a little more about this tonight. For my second goal, I've outlined steps that will be taken to examine our current practices of contracting and outsourcing services and plan to collaborate with leaders across the district to ensure collective effort in increasing our procurement of minority and women-owned and service-disabled veteran business enterprises. This will continue to advance our district's value of equity. And finally, goal number 3, through specifically designed professional learning opportunities, I aim to have a positive impact on employee sense of belonging throughout the organization. I have outlined in this slide the groups of employees and the leadership with whom I will be collaborating with directly and the intentional content which I will be providing to move forward our value of equity. Helen Keller once said, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." We are now going to share with the board our department's collective mission to support the growth of Special School District in serving as a regional leader and providing opportunities of educational equity for all children throughout St. Louis County. As we examine the impacts that all employees in our district have on the lifelong opportunities for students, we know the importance of engaging in courageous conversations about equitable resources, programming, experiences, and access. As a department, we aim to ensure that all employees are equipped with the tools needed to actively participate in the advocacy of removing barriers to learning for children across the county. Presented here is a continuum of readiness that our team has developed to measure progress toward our goal of collective efficacy. We believe that all SSD employees can be active in the effort of ensuring educational equity, and leadership across the district we know will drive to move our progress forward. Dr. Diggs will wrap us up with our collective mission as a department.
Chambers. As we wrap up, our department stretches across many work groups as well as across the district and also within, many ideologies as we're bringing people back together. And so for our department, we have chosen a mission that really drives the work as we're rolling our sleeves up, connecting with individuals, and it is this: to empower district leaders with actionable knowledge needed to advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility for each stakeholder in our community. And the reason why we highlighted the word empower as well as the word to advocate is because that's the work that we have together as educators. Ours is to advocate for those that may not be able to advocate for themselves, in addition to provide tools in the tool belt for our educators to do that real work. And then I do believe that John Maxwell said it the best. He said this: the single best way to impact an organization is to focus on leadership development. Dr. Chambers and I, we are very steeped in the need for development in our spaces and where we've been before. That's something that we take very seriously, the leadership and development of others. And so he continues to say in his quote, there is almost no limit to the potential of an organization that recruits good people, raises them up as leaders, and continually develops them. Again, John Maxwell. Again, I want to say thank you for this time to give an update. Are there any comments or questions?
Just one quick question. Page 7, talk about the trauma certificate. I find for the last 10 years, trauma is probably one of the major issues. Exploding in education. Harvard studies that they did in Western. Explain to me what happens with that trauma certificate. What is that?
So this is year 2 for me. Year 1, I sat with our staff at Bridges, and I wanted to really know what they wanted to learn, what they feel was most impactful for their work with the children that they serve. And trauma was the number 1 thing that they listed. Number 2 was poverty, and then number 3 was troubling behaviors in the community. So it was 1, 2, 3. And so as we were working through poverty, diving really deep into that, I wanted to circle back onto their number 1 for this year. And so through the partnership between SSD and also Missouri Baptist, I happened to find a card that landed on my desk. I believe Dr. Macklin dropped it there. And so I pursued it, made a couple phone calls, wanted to deeply understand the certificate that they have within Missouri Baptist, and also how can we bring that here. Through conversations and support, we were able to run a pilot through Bridges of staff members who pursued and also this knowledge. Now, the knowledge that they are going through right now, today was module number 5, using the work right now that they're learning, they get to use that again with their children right now. And that's the purpose of professional learning. What can we do in this moment to use either today or tomorrow? And we're accentuating that piece through this certificate.
Years ago, we brought an individual in named Gene Griffith, Dr. Griffith. Probably in the United States, next to him, blocking on the guy's name right now in Texas, as the trauma program. One of the best. One personal friend of mine, we want him back. He did it for free. I'm sure I get it from back.
Just to give a little more context, the certificate that the staff at Bridges, as well as myself, are pursuing, there are 4 different courses. As we progress through this process, we'll wrap up around April. What we're finding is that there's a level of neuroscience that our staff are picking up on. There's also a level of strategies and structures to use in the moment with children to best support them in whatever their needs may be. So that's what we're learning.
A series of information of what trauma does to the brain, how you actually have the different biological changes that occur in the brain, effects on the brain.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was module, I think, 3 and 4.
Next on our agenda, 5.03, Introduction to the Employee Engagement and Empowerment, E3.
Evening again. So I'll just stay right here and carry on. Thank you for having me, President Potshoff, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. My name is Katie Chambers. I am the Director of Equity for Operations. I will be sharing with you the development of an equitable operational practice, which has been designed to ensure decisions regarding our employees are rooted in equity and prioritize to value each employee and the talents that they bring to the organization. So to give you a little history, last year, a job description committee was formed to analyze and make recommendations regarding newly proposed positions. In analyzing the purpose and the function of this team, it was identified that the need for making thoughtful decisions around the alignment of our organization was much grander than just looking at the job description. So in August, the team reimagined and the purpose of the group and was redesigned as the Employee Engagement and Empowerment Team, the E3 team, with a focus on elevating experiences of our employees throughout the organization. Because we know that leadership has a direct impact on the success of our district, the team focused first on defining the universal competencies of district leaders, both instructional and operational across the district. So this next slide speaks to the foundational work of this team in defining leadership competencies. This was rooted in determining the knowledge, skills, and dispositions of a leader who is competent, confident, and committed to engaging and empowering our employees across the organization. The team gathered input from various sources to synthesize the needs of the district. The equity framework provides a definition of leadership from the boardroom to the classroom, so we used that information from that. The operational leadership team had been doing some work with the top leadership skills from Harvard Business Review, so we incorporated that. Dare to Lead provides incredible research about leadership competencies. A team of staff engaged in an extensive analysis of leadership traits using DESI's leadership standards to design an administrator evaluation tool was done last year, and a one-question survey was sent out district-wide. The team gathered information from all of these sources, and this was used to produce a first draft of universal leadership competencies, which was then offered to the DLT for final input. We feel confident that the universal leadership competencies which were developed can serve as a foundation for robust professional development, impactful feedback and evaluation, and intentional recruitment and hiring practices. Prior to giving you an overview of the work of E3, I would like to point out that the design process has been aligned to the district CSIP, strategic plan, and equity framework. So the next few slides, you'll see the alignment at the top right corner of each of these slides. Because the work of E3 team is similar to the Office of Employee Success and Engagement, the first step of the team was to clearly define the difference between E3 and OESE department responsibilities. You can see outlined in the chart below that E3 will focus on department alignment, employee promotion opportunities, new position requests, and overall position reviews, rather than individual employee reviews, district transfer processes, and hiring processes, which will still remain the responsibility of the OESE department. To ensure confidence and trust in the work of the team, our mission remains as the focal point of our work. The E3 team is focused on aligning, affirming, and elevating employees throughout the organization. This team is rooted in the values of the DEIA department, and we have committed to honoring the integrity of the processes to ensure it does not become a scapegoat for inequitable or unethical practices of employee advancement. Regardless of the focused outcome of each cycle, the team will follow a consistent 5, phase process to formulate recommendations to the district superintendent and the Board of Education. The phases that you'll see outlined here start with working with the leadership team within each department to establish collective agreements. And that involves looking at the position, promotion request, or the department structure from both an organizational and a positional perspective. So how it would impact the organization as a whole, as well as positions within the department or external in other departments. Each process ensures engagement with all employees directly connected to the outcomes, and this could be accomplished through interviews, panels, surveys. The team will engage with employees ongoing to ensure that everyone has input and feels validated in their thoughts around the development of the department. Each cycle ends with a succession planning to ensure well-informed and comprehensive recommendations are brought forth. To ensure diverse perspectives and collective district outcomes are considered throughout the comprehensive process, a core team has been intentionally created to capture varied perspectives rooted from different experiences within the organization and external to the organization. The diversity of the team is defined by gender, race, age, position, department, years in the district, education and certification, and both professional and personal experiences outside of the organization. The common thread of the E3 members is their commitment to the success of special school districts, as well as their commitment to advancing DEIA throughout the organization, thus working into the district's value of equity. Here you see the 7 objectives which the E3 core team will use to measure success. You can see each goal highlights the action and the reason behind the action. We want to be clear in our outcomes and remain focused on the overall mission of the work, again, to align, affirm, and elevate all employees throughout the organization. In this last slide, you can see where we are in the development of final processes and communication with district employees. The first pilot process, which was facilitated and vetted through the equity framework, was the proposal of a new position, the first of the 4. The E3 team engaged in a comprehensive review of the request for a chief legal counsel, which was presented to the board in October. The team vetted the process through the equity framework, guiding principle number 1 of defining an equitable operational practice for the district. The team feels confident that the process used to bring new positions to the board is equitable and is comprehensive. We are currently beginning a pilot on a department alignment process with the communications department. Once all processes, each of the 4, have been piloted and vetted through the equity framework, guiding principle number 1, communication will be distributed to all staff to ensure processes are transparent and request procedures are in place and readily accessible. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Boyd.
President Potroff, members of the board, Dr. Macklin, I'm just here to introduce John Levito from McMahon Berger. McMahon Berger has been a top partner for the district the last 2 years and helped to create the new structures for OESE. And John Levito will give some thoughts on the current processes that are occurring with free and with OESE. Thank
you very much. Good evening, President Potroff, board, and Dr. Macklin. I'll keep this brief. I just learned to walk again about 6 weeks ago, so I don't have as much endurance on it. So I'll try to be short. And thank you, Dr. Chambers, and Mr. Boyd for allowing me to have a few moments here. Just by way of background, who I am. My name is John Marino. I'm a partner with McMahon Berger. We're right next door to you all. I'm past president of the Society for Human Resources Management in St. Louis, currently the director-elect for the Missouri Society for Human Resources Management. Very passionate about all things HR and the world of work. That's why I got into this. That's why I really enjoy this field. That's why it was a privilege for me to be asked to be a sounding board on this project. And that's really what our role has been throughout the past year, 2 years, has been to be a sounding board for the district on the E3 plan and how it's going to evolve as an organization. Big picture, you know, because my passion is HR and organizations, and I'm probably telling you things you already know, the world of work has changed very significantly over the past 5 years. And it's not just a result of the pandemic. The pandemic's a big part of that. But we've obviously endured a labor shortage and things like that. But really the past 12 to 18 months, what's been highlighted, what we talk about in all the SHRM meetings, we talk SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management, sorry to use that acronym, that I'm sure a lot of your HR professionals, so SHRM, a lot of you in your places of work have found is the management talent gap. You know, we have one of the largest generations in the history of this country retiring. We have a new generation of workforce of leaders who are untrained, untested leaders. So a big part of what the E3 plan is to take and nurture those leaders and to identify those leaders within an organization and raise them up, because that's really what's required. There is not, you know, when I first started working, we were thankful to have a job. Yes, sir, may I have another. You know, you were pleased, you were happy to be gainfully employed. The dynamic has changed over the past several years. And as we saw, and I love the John Maxwell quote that we saw earlier, you know, and I don't know when that quote was, when Maxwell first said that, but it remains true to this day, if not more so true to this day. To have organizations succeed, you need to have organizational leadership development from within. That's really what this program has been designed to do. And it's frankly, it's on the forefront. You know, I have a lot of private sector clients that aren't engaging in the type of leadership development as the district has engaged and taken steps forward on these things. It really is something that is frankly very innovative, and I think is going to serve not only the employees of the district, but the district and mission itself long term. And those are just my thoughts as somebody who has been kind of engaged as a sounding board with the district over the past year, 2 years. But it's an exciting program. It's been a privilege to help and advise and give some 2 cents on it. With that, I'll hand it back to you, Dr. Chambers. And if you have any questions, I'll be sitting.
I would just love to take any questions from the board. If there are any.
Great idea. How are we going to measure success on this? What are our goals that we're measuring? And how are we collecting our data? Because we need to point and not afterwards.
Absolutely. So a couple cases that I've already used as a baseline was going into looking at our employee engagement survey and just kind of what is the sense of, one, retention. We're looking at retention numbers, right? So we want to hire and retain excellent employees. You know, the beauty about this organization is it's so large, and our purpose is children. We serve the best children across the county, and so the idea is when an employee starts employment here, we never want them to leave. We want this to be a place that they feel that they can grow, that there are venues for development, for their own growth, venues for their career advancement. And so we look at a couple of factors to your question. One, retention, and then 2, engagement. How do employees feel about their sense of belonging in the organization? How do employees feel about their opportunities for growth and success? How do employees feel about the professional development that they're receiving, and is it leading to new opportunities? Are employees feeling seen, valued, heard, and respected in the talents and skills that they bring? So those would be a couple.
I'm very interested in seeing, you know, the variables that you're going to use and what questions you're going to look at before you start it, then we can look at it afterwards.
Perfect.
I think that is a real good way
And I can
to
share
evaluate
that.
whether this program is.
Okay. Great, yeah, I'll share those, because that is the baseline. I've got a long history as a principal. I'm used to developing, growth plans, and so I always start with the baseline because I want to see success for myself and know that I'm having some kind of impact on, the growth of the organization. So,
Thank you.
so we'll get those to you. I'll get those to you. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Last on our superintendent's report, we have the first quarter strategic.
Good evening, President Contract, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. My name is Molly Bolton, and I am the Executive Director of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. And tonight I'm here to present the first quarter update on our strategic and comprehensive school improvement plan. So, just a reminder, we're going into our second year of our 5-year plan, and so these results are the first quarter reports. And the great thing is, our teams are moving forward. And so hopefully you'll see the progress, as we go through. Last year, we spent a lot of time, with especially our newer teams, really, looking at our theory of change and creating our action steps. So now we're actually to the implementation phase of all of our, goals and objectives. Just a quick reminder, this slide that you've seen probably 100 times now, the difference between the strategic plan and the CSEP plan. So just want to put that up there to remind you. And we'll start with our strategic plan. So our very first goal is around creating those data systems for the district so that we can share the partner district's data and our teachers have easy access to that data. So a couple of the strategies there, we do have one strategy team for both of these strategies. So you can see part of their work is developing data governance, and we have a nice pilot going right now where we're really focusing on one piece of data governance, and right now we're focusing on making sure all of our systems have the correct information for our employees, for the right locations, the right supervisors, and all of those pieces throughout the organization. And so really looking at that location data. Our next steps. So we did, I believe I informed you last time that our MoreNet, we have a grant with, and we were working with them through this grant to develop a system. They had chosen Evaluate as the platform that they were going to pilot throughout the state of the Missouri and various sites. Elevate recently let us know that they are retiring the platform that was going to be used by MoreNet. And so now we are continuing to work with MoreNet to see if, through a Dale Foundation grant, to see if we can explore some other vendors, but also looking in-house. And I do know that you had a question, and so just wanted to address that. We are looking at in-house. With in-house, we would also be doing that cost-benefit analysis, but we're also exploring other platforms as well, because we do want to make the best determination, not only for cost effectiveness, but also to meet the needs of our stakeholders. And so that will be a part of any solution that we bring forward to adopt for this project. The next goal is really looking at optimizing our resources. And if you'll remember, 2.1 was completed last year, which was an audit of the resources that our different departments use. And that was handed off to our 2.2 strategy team. And so right now they are working on looking at the data and crosswalking it, and then prioritizing where they might start developing that plan. And then they have, after looking at the data, have determined that they do need to revise some of their action steps or their theory of change steps. So they're also working on that. For goal 3. Goal 3, that is creating the learning environments and systems around our highly mobile students. And so they have added some additional team members to that team and gotten them onboarded. and really looking at the targeted audiences, to really think about within and outside the county, what the current state is with some of that. So as they begin that journey mapping, they are really looking at select districts, both those that have low, medium mobility rate, all the way up to high mobility rate. And then really working with our CSIP team also to make sure that our programming, which I'll report on in just a few minutes, but making sure our programming for our students that are highly mobile is consistent across. Any questions about the strategic plan? On to the CSIP.
I think you may have just jumped to the CSIP goal 3 instead of the strategic goal.
You know what, because I'm hitting the forward arrow instead of the backward arrow. Okay, so sorry. To it while they're bringing that up. So,
Or number 7.
so 3, I'll go back to strategic goal number 3, which is slide number 7, okay? And that is our multi-channel communication. And with this, we do have 3 strategies under here. Our first being partnerships with our businesses. And so recently, this team just held a partnership meeting with our various stakeholders, our departments who do a lot of community partnerships. So that included our Family and Community Engagement Department, our Career and Technical Education, Transition, and Social Work. And then they gathered feedback from those partners that we partner with quite frequently there to really think about our landing page that we have on our website about our community partners and what the information we are sharing in our newsletters. And they're also doing a partner quarterly newsletter and completing a survey there. So once that survey closes and they gather those results, they'll be analyzing those results and then developing action plans and supports around them. They are also in the process of doing some updates on our career and technical, as well as our transition partners, so that we can have those available for families and students. And then also creating an onboarding. If you remember, when you were a new board member, you received an onboarding that really gave you a lot of history about our district and what our district does. And we know in St. Louis County, like, we've been around for a long time, but people don't really often know all the things that are included. And so this is to help our community partners understand our districts better and look for other opportunities to plug into our organization. For our next strategy around family engagement, Adrian England and I recently attended the Character.org conference in Washington, D.C., and we received the Promising Practice Awards for our Welcoming Schools walkthrough. So we're very proud of that. That has been years in the works, and it was very nice to be recognized. There were about 17 other organizations throughout the whole country, one international, that was recognized for Promising Practice. So that was really exciting for that team and all the work that they've been doing. We also took our family quality indicators. We presented that back in the spring to the board, and we have made that digital. So that school districts who are working on those best practices of family and community engagement can utilize that survey to not only show their growth as they're working through, but also target areas that they need to improve for action. And then lastly, they updated the questions for the family engagement survey, and that engagement survey will be going out the 1st of December. So we'll be working to get the word out about the quality indicator survey, and then once the family and school surveys are closed, we will then be working through those results to develop action. The last goal in our strategy in this goal area is establishing communications amongst departments. We have reassigned this goal. This strategy was originally with Jennifer Henry in our communications department, and she is a little busy being the head of the whole department. And so Chantel Chandler, we felt like this really felt within fell within her job duties. And so we have handed off that strategy team and done a transition plan with her. And so right now, she's working on reviewing that previous work, recalibrating that, and so moving forward, they will be looking at the committee makeup, scheduling those meetings, and then going through that action plan and theory of change. Any questions now about the strategic plan?
Just want to say congratulations again on the promising practices.
All right, so now we'll move into the CSIP plan. Next slide, please. All right, so with goal number 1, we're looking at our transition goals there first, our strategy for those positive post-secondary outcomes. And so this is one of our longest standing CSIP goals, and they have done some fabulous work. And so right now, you'll remember the work that they've done previously around self-determination, and now they're working on integrating that work into multi-tiered systems of support models. And this is a very low research area. When we look at MTSS research, there is not much around developing self-determination in students. So we're really excited to explore this area and might possibly be able to do some action research in that area. So right now we're partnering with our MTSS facilitators and thinking and working through what that might look like in that integrated model for districts. So they're going to be beginning to kind of really outline what that framework looks like and then get feedback on those that integration from DLT as well as the other CSIP teams. And then that would be something that our MTSS facilitators, as they work with partner districts in developing MTSS frameworks, would be able to build that self-determination into those models. Our next strategy is around improving the connections between student data and research. And so they have really looked at those upstream linkages or those pieces that might connect into the factors influencing student achievement and really looking at, what are those things that are impactful for that proactive planning. They have compiled a list of risk factors and really looking at observing and tracking those to ensure that we are staying on track. Their next steps are really to develop a pilot with a few partner districts to really look at how we might utilize those data sources that we're sharing data with for proactive planning. And so right now, you may remember from previous presentations that we do have 2 districts that are partnering with us on the Panorama Success platform, and that is Hancock School District and Melville School District. And so those 2 districts will be ones that they're looking at then to pilot this next piece of that proactive planning. The next strategy is engaging in the collaborative planning with partners. And so in the Strategic Response Solutions Framework, or SRS framework, they have worked on their design principles. And so those pieces include focusing around those partnerships and collaboration, communication and community engagement, change accountability, clarifications of expectations, special education collaboration, improving student outcomes, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then that holistic educational experiences. And so now they will work on developing a prototype that will help engage our partners with that collaborative. Goal 2 is really around coordinated decision-making. And so really looking at that, developing that common philosophy and programming throughout the district. And so they have, that team has collected a lot of data on what is the current state of programming and philosophy around the whole county. And so now they're working on clarifying that data and then being able to disaggregate that. And then based on that data, they'll decide what their next action steps are. 2.2 has been a longstanding theme as well, the programming and evidence-based practices. And so we are continuing to work on our prototype
where we're really looking at many of the tools that we have in place for our administrators and our teachers to use to make those database decision-making, and making sure that they are not only high-quality tools, but also that they're useful. You know, we have tons of things out there, but if teachers aren't using them or administrators aren't using them, then we need to remove those tools from our toolbox, right? Because your toolbox gets a little too full. And so those are some of the pieces that we're looking at with that team. Next slide, please. And this is the final one that I talked about with Moses. Next slide. So, any questions that you might have on the CSIP strategy?
Put together the panorama, Melville and Hancock.
Yes.
Got Jeff there at Melville.
We do.
Can't we talk with him? I mean, what?
No, we're doing that. We're already actively engaged in that. And actually, we were actively engaged with them before Jeff went there, but now we definitely have that in.
I was just saying, boy, what a decent way to
Yeah,
get in.
yeah. And actually, the reason why we chose those two districts is Melville was already a Panorama user. So they already use Panorama for their student data. Hancock does not. And so we really wanted to take a district that did use Panorama and a district that did not.
You got a board member sitting right there shaking his head.
To see if we could utilize those sources. You know, so they have both been great partners, and really seen some fabulous work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the consensual items?
So,
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? For the action item, do I have a motion for the revised article of 2023 to 2026 local fixed and transportation labor contract?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Board of Education will, at 9.01, there will be a closed meeting of the Board of Education on November 14th night following this meeting, and November 20th. December, next meeting will be December. Yes, there is. It's been a long day. November 28th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And we'll need a roll call for that. Oh,
I'll make a motion. No, Dr. Esser made a motion, I'll second.
roll call. Director Astor?
Yes.
Yes.
Director Staton?
Yes.
Vice President Byers? Yes. President Petrov? Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next, 9.03, executive meeting action items. Okay. Following items were approved during the executive meeting on October 24th, 2023. Employment, resignation, retirement, salary adjustments, extra duty pay, 3 contract release requests, and 2 settlements. Now for board communications, I think Dr. Matson.
Great, just a couple of things, Board of Education. I would like to commend all of the individuals who presented tonight, did an amazing job and the hard work that went into it. Also, on our October 24th meeting, it was stated that the Thomas Check law firm, been advising the district for many years, quite some time, was dissolving. That information is incorrect. And so I want to go on the record to say that information is correct and that the law firm is not dissolving and is fully operational and has no plans to dissolve at this time. And then the last piece is I would like to acknowledge Director Faulkner, who was here, Curtis Faulkner, who was here, who served our district for many years, numerous terms, and so I'd like to acknowledge him tonight.
Got a couple. First of all, thank you, Curtis, for coming. Curtis not only came, Curtis still goes to, dialysis 3 times a week, and he still made it here. I'm impressed, guy. Thank you. He served 2 terms, served Brown County well, thank you. Also sitting next to him, you talked about Hancock. We got a board member of Hancock. Thank you, Gary Meese, who served on, governing council. Thank you. As for board communications, MSBA, Dr. Macklin, presented at MSBA, did a superb job again, because the last time he did it. And did well. People talked about you afterwards. Talked about you well.
There's a difference.
I know. Well, they talked about him in a nice way, but not just talked about it. The one thing that was striking from MSBA, from the conferences that we did there, was one of which is there was a real absence, anything to do with special education. Now, what is it, 1 out of 6 kids in Missouri, at least 1 out of 6 kids in St. Louis County? I believe that's pretty much the standard across the state. You see some type of special education services. There was not one thought on it. I would, hopefully by next year, put something together. I mean, there is a complete, I see Wendy shaking her head. There's a complete absence. When it was done years ago, it was more of, what can we do to get around paying for it? That's what most of the talks were about in special ed. Nice to talk about it, nice to talk about IEPs, talk about the different ways we do it. It would be nice for us to take the lead. So I propose that by the time they start asking for it, I know we talked about this, Dr. Macklin, and we talked about it at dinner. It might be a good idea for us to put something together. I think it would be good for us to be a leader there. I think it would be real good for not just us, I think for the state of Missouri, to show what happens in special ed. Not correctly done for the kids.
Other board communications? I will just say thank you to everyone who is happy for being here. Great calendar of events, online. Do I have a motion for adjourn? To adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you so much.